everybody. Now, the new requirements for children travelling to or from the Republic of South Africa will take effect from today. The Department of Home Affairs says the new immigration regulations are aimed at establishing the principle that all minors require the consent of their parents when travelling into or out of the Republic. To get more clarity on matters related to the unabridged birth certificates requirement for children travelling abroad, we are joined by Mkhuseli Apleni, who is the Director General at the Department of Home Affairs. It's good to have you, DG. Thank you very much for being with us on the programme.
Morning to you, Lena, and the viewers.
All right, so it's the first day. Is it all systems go for South Africa?
Yes, we are very happy that everything is going well. The day has finally arrived to implement these regulations to protect the children of South Africa as well as children from the foreign countries who are visiting our country. Yeah,
look, I mean, it hasn't been an easy process, and you certainly have faced a lot of challenges and a lot of backlash from people because people haven't been happy with suddenly having to get all of this documentation in place. How has Home Affairs coped with the sudden influx of people? I mean, last week and the week before, we were seeing queues of people trying to apply for these unabridged birth certificates and other documentation to not travel with minors.
Well, our assessment is that the people who are not happy other people who are in the industry, like your tourist people, not the parents. I've not heard one parent who have said, I don't want Home Affairs to introduce this measure, and I'm happy that my child can leave the country without my consent. So as a department, we have really pushed when we had some backlogs, which we have cleared, and we have designed the system now to make sure that people are able to get their unabridged birth certificate with ease.
Now, I mean, you mentioned tourist operators complaining, and they have been. They've been very, very vocal about this. Some even throwing figures about saying, you know, up to 60% of travellers will sort of change their plans now and not come to South Africa because of these regulations that have been put in place. And it is going to have a severe impact on our tourism industry. From what you're seeing, I suppose it's difficult to ask you because you're not really seeing bookings and delays coming through. But do you honestly believe it's not going to have an effect at all on tourism?
No, we do. And remember, any person who comes into our country or leave our country, we've got a record for that. Yeah. So in a year, we normally process about 20 million tourists. Then, according to our statistics, we've got about 1.4 million children who are coming from outside and about 1 million who goes out. So we process about 2.4 million children per annum. And then when you calculate that and say, let's say one child travel with two parents, and then that gives you about 3.8 million. Then now you start and saying, even if those people cannot come because of our regulations, how can that count for 6 billion and count for 60%? So there's exaggeration here. We are assuming that every traveler is traveling with a child. But children are at school between January and June and between July and December. Where do you get this thing that every traveler who comes is with a child? And also we're saying what we do not understand. The market which was branded as the one which will severely impacted, which is China. China, they don't need to have an unabridged birth certificate to come to South Africa because when they apply, they already submitted that document. So where this thing comes from, we really do not understand.
Okay, so you're disputing that this is actually the case. So let's get down to the facts of it. Now, basically, as the rule comes into effect today, what's going to happen is that any person under the age of 18 leaving or entering South Africa is required to have an unabridged birth certificate to accompany their passport. That is the new rule now.
But let's split it.
Good.
When you are coming from a country which is visa exempt, is the one you must bring an unabridged birth certificate.
So only visa exempt countries?
Yes, but if you are coming from a country where we require a visa, you don't need to carry that because you have already submitted when you are applying for your visa. And for your information, we've got a lot of countries which are the ones we need a visa than the ones which are visa exempt.
All right. What happens in the situation of a single parent who can't get consent from the other parent due to a number of reasons, divorce, an absent parent, yet both their details appear on the unabridged birth certificate? What's going to happen?
Well, we must understand that the issue of looking at children as parents is not the issue of Home Affairs. That's why we've got Children's Court, which there is a Children's Act, which is clearly in terms of how to manage the children. If it is a case of a divorce, if during your divorce process you did get the full custody of the children, then there is no need to get a consent of any party. At the same time, if you are single, you did not register the father of the child in your unabridged birth certificate, you don't need that. But if you have decided to waive your right as a single parent as far as taking the care of that child, then surely the other party should know where that child is going and at what point and all that. I think that is very fair.
Yeah, but like in some cases, as we mentioned, there are runaway fathers. There are parents that are not together, that a mother may have a child, but there is no father around.
No, but there's court. In that event, you go to court, and then they will say, if this father is unreasonably withhold the right of the child, then that's what you will do. But you must also remember that there are also people who take children from another party. It's also a fact.
What about the issue that it can take the department up to 6 weeks or more sometimes to get an unabridged birth certificate? I remember waiting months for my child's unabridged birth certificate. What have you done here to help this situation?
Well, Leanne, we are in South Africa. We know that an ID document in Home Affairs was taking 6 months before. We know that. But now it is taking 7 days to get your smart card. We know that to get a passport in Home Affairs before, it was taking a longer time. But we're improving the systems. So now that's why we started by changing our system on the unabridged birth certificate. People, they also know you get our unabridged birth certificate on the spot for a child who was born from 2013 going forward. So what we're talking about here is the children were born in 1996 up to 2013. That's what we're dealing with it. So after that, every child who's born is getting the unabridged birth certificate on the spot. So what we're saying is that we are able now to produce those unabridged birth certificates even because we have changed the system now.
Just finally, I know I'm running out of time, but this is such a major issue. If somebody arrives in the country today, or somebody leaves the country today, and I think it's more difficult, somebody arriving in the country today, and they don't have this documentation, perhaps for some reason they were unaware of it, are they going to be put back on the plane and sent home?
Well, then we can even change that question and say, when you go to US, when you go to UK, you don't have an unabridged birth certificate, what do? They send you back. So why South Africa cannot do that? If you break our law, we're going to send you back. Because it's not the only country which does this. You cannot travel to any country without a passport. That's why you don't understand this. Let's take a yellow fever certificate. There are countries where when you need to travel, you need to have a yellow fever certificate. If you go to that country, you're not carrying it, they simply return you back.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You've heard it. So as of today, if you do not have this documentation, you will be turned back. You need an unabridged birth certificate if you have not had to apply for a visa from another country to come to South Africa, because if you have applied for the visa, you would already have to ensure that you get that. And let's not kid. Applying for a visa to go somewhere like to America, the documentation you have to bring, it's almost equivalent of a file of things so that you can get that document. So South Africa moving in these footsteps now, and as of today, anybody arriving or leaving South Africa without this unabridged birth certificate for an individual under the age of 18 years old will be turned away in either direction. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for talking to us. This was the Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, Nkuseni Apleni, talking to us about this new immigration regulation for children travelling through South African ports of entry. Please let us know if you've been through this process and what it's been like for you. At Morning Live SABC, we wait to hear from you. Let's take a break.